Welcome to the Around the Maritime podcast, the official English language podcast of the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League, presented by Carlsberg. I'm Mavs Gillis. Thanks for joining us. We got ourselves a great episode this week. Charlie Morrison from the Quebec Remparts out of Miramichi. He has climbed up the Scouts lists this past 2 years. We're going to talk to him about kind of the perseverance. He was a kid who was not drafted in his first year of eligibility to the Q, worked his butt off, got a chance to go to Quebec in the second round, and now all of a sudden, a lot of scouts taking notice of young Charlie Morrison because he is. You just look at the Central Scouting lists. You look at Craig Button's list. You look at all the lists, and all of a sudden, the defenseman from Miramichi is moving his way up to those spots as we get ready for the NHL draft. Jamie Tozer as well, Station Nation. We got a chance to chat with him. He was down at the World Juniors in Minneapolis and Minnesota as well. We'll be talking about the log jams and the playoff races here in the Quebec Maritime Junior League Hockey League. We focus on our teams in Atlantic Canada. It certainly is an intriguing race. The Moncton Wildcats look like they're I don't know if they're going to be stopped. I really don't know if they're going to be stopped. Chicoutimi on their heels, but Moncton, if things keep going the way that's going the way for Moncton, it could look like the road to the Gilles Corteau Cup goes through Wildcat Way. The log jam in the middle, and of course, with Jamie's knowledge on the Sea Dogs, we'll talk a lot about the Harbor Station tenants. But we'll have Jamie Tozer coming up next, right here. It is Around the Maritimes, the official English language podcast of the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League, presented by Carlsberg. Jamie Tozer, Station Nation, joining at this time. Jamie, it's been a while since we've had a chance to speak. How you been, man? What's been going on?
I've been good. Yeah, we haven't met since before Christmas, I think. So yeah, it was a nice little break, and but nice to be back as well. Went to the World Juniors for a few days, and made my way back, and it's been a busy few months watching some New Brunswick hockey.
You were one of the few people in attendance in Minnesota.
I wasn't gonna say that, but yeah.
Yeah, love your thoughts on how the tournament went down in the land of a thousand lakes.
Yeah, overall, I think it was just like super unfortunate timing that Minnesota hosted this. Probably the worst time in a generation for the U.S. to host a World Junior. So I think that was just kind of unfortunate. I will say, ticket prices were pretty crazy. Like it's like they were very much like a pro market ticket prices. This was not, what we saw in Halifax and Moncton. So that certainly didn't help them either. But I think overall, it was just the lack of Canadians' desire to go to the U.S. right now. I think is kind of the major factor, and it's a shame too because like it was pretty fun tournament otherwise. Like it's a decent setup, and the two rinks are somewhat close together. It's not like you can walk between the two, but it's still a decent setup, and you can get there by train and stuff. So, yeah, a pretty good tournament, and hopefully, I do hope, the next time the U.S. gets it, I hope that they kind of venture away from some of them, I guess I'll just say venture away from Buffalo. I love anywhere in the U.S. but Buffalo. It seems like Buffalo's had it so many times over the past 20 years.
Well, I'd have to say Michigan would be the next
For sure.
reasonable spot in that. I I don't foresee a North Dakota in there, although Lake Placid in upstate New York, which is
Yep.
extremely close to Buffalo.
Yeah, and I get nothing against Buffalo. If we could stay away from Buffalo for a bit, that'd be great. Maybe wait another 10 years or so.
Well, as a guy that's got all kinds of Miami Dolphins stuff behind me, I'm sure I share my sentiment about Buffalo. Um, but let's move our focus back to New Brunswick hockey. Since the last time we chatted, the Moncton Wildcats have only lost 3 times. In fact, added Gavin Cornforth from UMass as well. Another big piece. They're 4 points up on Chicoutimi for the top spot in the entire league. Is anyone catching the Moncton Wildcats?
Yeah, it really feels like they're rolling at the right time right now. Maybe I'm sure there's probably some people who look at this and say that you don't want to peak too early, but it feels like they've really found their groove right now, and that win in Chicoutimi, I'm sure, was not that it needed a confidence booster, but I'm sure that was a nice just um, security blanket, I guess, just knowing that they do have the ability to beat Chicoutimi, who at that time was the top team in the league. So I'm sure um, that was a big win for them mentally, just knowing that they have the ability to beat Chicoutimi. And it's, so similar to what we saw last year when Rimouski came to Moncton and really, dismantled the Wildcats. The Wildcats did not seem ready for that game against Rimouski. But then the Wildcats flipped the script and win in Rimouski. Extremely similar to this year when Chicoutimi came to town. Moncton just did not look ready for that game. Made a game of it in the third period, but really rebounded with a solid road win a week later. So very similar to last year, and it's almost weirdly feeling kind of similar to last year when the scoring depth is kind of showing. They're very strong defensively. And the goaltending has been excellent. So it's feeling a lot like last year. So it's very very kind of creepy, just given that, I think if you don't follow this team, you'd think that, oh, this is just a team that, was young last year and managed to hang on to its core. But it's really been, some core pieces hung around, but it's really been a almost rebuilt hockey team over a few months. So this has been super, super impressive. And I think most people, including myself, kind of expected this team to be better in the second half, just given the amount of new players that they have in the lineup. And like you mentioned, the players that they brought in recently, like Cornforth, has been excellent, and he's fit right in. So this has been a super, super impressive stretch for the Wildcats, and it'll be a fun race too, because it really, you look at the standings, it's really Chicoutimi and Moncton, and there's a big split after that. So it's really going to be the two of them neck and neck over the next couple months.
Yeah, Chicoutimi Moncton right now, top of the East, but again, they're a couple points up on Blainville and Drummondville, who we've seen come through. But you talk about playoff races, the middle pack of our Eastern Conference. Now, we saw Cape Breton this week against Newfoundland. We caught them in the win. Of course, Newfoundland wins the next night in overtime over Cape Breton. Charlottetown in that mix as well. Quebec, and Quebec has really, they've turned it around. I'd say that. And I've got Charlie Morrison coming on the podcast to talk a bit more about that. And Halifax is still kind of sneaking in there as well. When you look at this pack here, who do you think is going to emerge out of those five?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you mentioned, Moncton and Chicoutimi are definitely going to be at the top there. But after that, it's really fun. And, you kind of got the sense of the middle of the pack of the standings right now when the Sea Dogs were in Charlottetown on Saturday. And that felt like such a devastating loss for Charlottetown to win a game that on paper they should have won against St. John. And that was a huge blow to them in the standings. I know they've got plenty of time left to make up here, but still, just those are the games that when the season ends, you're going to look back on and say, if we had only won, that game against St. John, we might have been able to finish a higher seed, might have been able to get a more favorable playoff matchup, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you're starting to kind of feel the pressure some of these teams are under right now. So it'll be interesting to kind of see. Charlottetown, I do think that they've kind of had a bit of a rut here. I think that they're a little bit better than what we've seen lately. And it's funny because the teams you mentioned, Quebec and Newfoundland, they've kind of been hitting their stride a little bit over the recent weeks. And then you kind of have a divide where Charlottetown, Quebec, and Halifax are kind of been sliding. So still lots of time, though. I mean, this is just, a stretch of, 10 games or so in the month of January. They've got this month and a lot of March to figure it out. But it does kind of feel like the Atlantic teams might kind of be the teams leading the way in that 3, 4, 5 slot with Cape Breton, Newfoundland, and Charlottetown, and some combination of those three.
Yeah. Now, again, with the reseeding in the second round, they can come in that third, fourth spot, but it really is trying to find their way
Yep.
up into up to try to beat out some of the Western Conference leaders, because
Yep.
second round reseeding, you'll have yourself against Blainville or Drummondville.
Yeah, that's fun, right?
Yeah.
Fun reward to cross over to the West for potentially for the next round. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of an interesting wrinkle too, right? Because I feel like we haven't really had to think about that too much in recent years. So it is kind of fun to look at some of the potential matchups there. And I don't know, we were talking about the East, but I mean, the West is kind of interesting too, just where it does feel like there's kind of a divide there as well between the top few teams.
So there's also a divide now and kind of an arms race when I talk about infrastructure. The Wildcats, who have shown off their locker room for the past couple of years, now have a little bit of competition, if you will say, with the Halifax Mooseheads unveiling their brand new facility in Scotiabank Center. You're the arena guy. You've been to all of them. How much do you see kind of infrastructure like this being a massive draw in not just enticing but keeping kids in this junior hockey ranks and trying to keep them away from the NCAA?
Oh, I think it's massive. When a lot of these players, when they go to visit these NCAA facilities, they're not seeing games there, right? Like they're not seeing the atmospheres; they're just seeing videos of that. So, like what they're seeing and being sold is, the equipment rooms, the training rooms, the weight rooms and stuff like that, and also the dressing rooms. I mean, there's those are kind of the major selling points that a lot of these NCAA teams really have when players go down there on these recruiting trips, along with like the college experience and all that. But I mean the building and the infrastructure, I mean that's very much in teams' controls, right? So it definitely does feel like we're heading towards much more of an arms race in the CHL. I'd say we're maybe in the early days of this because it doesn't feel like there's a lot of teams really taking off with this. You touched on Moncton that kind of came just with the new building, but Halifax, it kind of feels like they're one of the only teams in the queue that's really kind of stepped out of that zone and really went all in on infrastructure. So I would imagine that we'll start to see that a lot more. I think it's probably a little bit more complicated in the CHL than in the NCAA, just because a lot of these are publicly owned arenas, and a lot that's a little bit complicated, and a lot of these teams are probably going to have to fund a lot of this infrastructure out of their own pockets, which isn't something that a lot of these teams have. But I'm sure you're going to see a lot of the powerhouse teams really start to invest in that, and we've already seen it in the OHL. I believe London this year renovated their dressing room. I know Kitchener has done some or has poised to do more, and those are obviously the Halifax. Their Kitchener and London are very much the Halifax of the OHL, right? So, I think we're going to see this more and more. What'll be interesting to me is when does a mid to small market team really go all in? I think that's when it's going to kind of get interesting, because when you look at the NCAA, I've been to D3 facilities that aren't too far from here that are probably nicer than some of the CHL facilities, and I mean that kind of says a lot about the NCAA and the money that a lot of these schools have. So it'll be really interesting over the next few years to see kind of teams take and enter this arena because I'm sure it's coming.
Now, Jamie, we'll wrap things up here. We're going to talk about your Sea Dogs. And again, you touched on the uh, Charlottetown Islanders being devastated after a 7-4 loss to the Sea Dogs. Sea Dogs have got to be ecstatic about that. They come out the next night, they lose 2-0 to Baie-Comeau, a dichotomy kind of the season. They're sitting in eighth in the East. Is this where they're going to stay? Are they going to be able to keep that spot, or will they be crossing over in that first round, or is this something that they are fighting for that playoff spot?
Yeah, it kind of feels like they might end up kind of backing their way into that eighth spot, just because I think you look at the teams that are kind of around them. Victoriaville is above them slightly, and then below them, Rimouski, Gatineau, Baie-Comeau. Baie-Comeau, I don't, they need a small miracle to get back in the race at this point. But St. John currently 1 point up on Rimouski, 2 points up on on Gatineau, and I mean those are teams that are kind of in. Rimouski's obviously in a big rebuild now for all the Memorial Cup, and Gatineau's in a similar cycle as St. John. So I do think St. John, if they don't finish eighth in the East, I mean, I think they'll kind of be around there at least. They might finish ninth and have to cross over, but I feel like there's pretty good chance that they might finish eighth, even if they kind of stay at the same pace that they're at. And that's just because I think the teams around them, aren't exactly the greatest teams ever either. So I do think that even if they kind of stay at where they're at and stay at this level of play, I do think that they've got a pretty good chance of hanging around in that eighth spot, which I think when the season ends and they look back will probably be a disappointing season. We'll see kind of what the plans are for the off season.
You follow the Sea Dogs extensively. What's been your thought of them over the last month?
I think that this weekend was a perfect example of the frustration that this team has had this season. It really has felt like one step forward, one step back for a lot of the season. It really, you look at this game in Charlottetown. You do have to mention that game. I mean, that was very much an implosion by the Islanders in that first period. But you have to give credit to St. John for really taking advantage of the opportunity in front of them, and that's something that this team hasn't been able to do a lot this season. They've had golden opportunities to take over games, and they haven't done it, and it's cost them. So full credit to the Sea Dogs for taking advantage of that. But then, I mean, to come out the next night, playing a Baie-Comeau team that was playing their third game in 3 days, and really struggled to generate any quality scoring chances in that whole game, and get shut out by Baie-Comeau, who's last in the league. I think that's just super, super disappointing, and really, like you mentioned, it's really kind of a snapshot of the season this past weekend, where it looks like they have a huge win. It looks like they have everything maybe together, and like this is the moment when this starts to click and take off, and then the next night they just fall flat. And it's been a very, very strange season like that. And this weekend was just a perfect example of that. And now you look at their schedule, and I mean, that loss to Baie-Comeau, we talked about Charlottetown losing key points in games that they should win. I mean, that's that game against Baie-Comeau. I think that St. John, when the season ends, that could end up being a significant loss for them.
Well, Jamie, I appreciate you taking the time as always. Station Nation on the Twitter and the Google machine to find the website. Appreciate it as always, and we look forward to seeing even more from you in the rink.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, Mavs Gillis here. We're going to talk very quickly about the Eastlink Atlantic Canada's most affordable family plan, and that is for wireless. We got plans starting at $25 a month, and you could bring 4 lines, bring your own devices, buy your devices with us on Eastlink. But it is shareable data, or shareable data that's either unlimited or rollover data. Myself, I like the rollover data. The 4 of us, we have not come close to going over the rollover data, so we've always got that buffer. I'm loaded up with gigabytes upon gigabytes to hit the roads and go everywhere with Eastlink, and just throw on the hotspot. I've always got my connectivity there, and a lot of that is thanks to that Atlantic Canada's uh, family share plan. Or hold on, Atlantic Canada's most affordable family plan. There it is. There's the tagline that I got to say right there. Give it a look. 1-888-345-1111. Visit eastlink.ca or check in at the stores so you yourself can get everybody under one specific cell phone plan to take care of you, and make sure we got a good deal for you with Eastlink, a proudly Atlantic Canadian company. Gotta make sure I don't get the glare on the mic. See? Glare? No glare. It's only if you're watching it, though. Again, if you're just listening, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Charlie Morrison joining me on the Around the Maritimes podcast. And first off, we got to start by talking about the season that is with the Quebec Remparts. Currently sitting in 6th, but a lot better hockey from the second half, and you're in a very tight playoff race. What has been working well for the Remparts?
I think it all starts in practice, which is our work ethic and our coach. He makes sure he disciplines us pretty well with putting that hard work ethic in practice and in games, and making sure that we outwork teams. And I think that's a big moral that kind of folds with our team. So I think that's something that kind of it's in us, and it's in our identity. So I feel like that's kind of been our keys to success. The games that we're winning, we're on. I feel like that's our big thing.
You talk about Eric Bayou putting in some keys to success. What's been some of the things you've liked about being coached by Eric?
I think a big one's accountability with him. Um, he appreciates guys that are honest and guys that take accountability for everything. So I think that's a big thing for him, is making sure if you make a mistake, if you may messed up on the ice or messed up off the ice, you should take accountability for it. I feel like that's a huge thing, and I feel like it goes a long way. So with him, I feel like that's one of the ones that I've definitely taken out the most for sure.
Your second year here in the Q, what have you learned about your game in this? You're no longer a rookie. You're one of the top prospects coming in to the NHL draft. What have you learned about your game this year?
I'd say the sooner you realize what your game is, I feel like that kind of helps. Make sure you have your confidence in your own game. But I feel like my first year was kind of just trying to identify my role with our team and through the league, because it was obviously it's not an easy league to play in, right? So But I feel like this year just the more obviously it's something you get with experience and playing more games, and over time you find your role and you find your identity. So I feel like that's something that's kind of helped me, and just to know that my game's defensive and I can move the puck and stuff. But in the end, I gotta make hits, and I gotta stop the play and be good defensively every game. So I feel like playing more games and having that experience have really kind of led me to find that this year, and I feel like that's been a key to success for me.
I really appreciate you talk about how this is a tough league to play in. Again,
Hmm.
the skill level in year two with a plethora of kids that have come into the league over this season, and I know it started last year. What have you seen about the skill level this year compared to last?
I'd say it's kind of changed a little bit. I feel like, I mean, obviously, there's a couple guys that came in and they're rookies. I mean, obviously, you see Joseph and St. John there, and he's having a pretty wicked year, right? Like a good 16-year-olds, and you see them kind of all around the league. There's a lot of new guys, and there's a lot of young talent. But I mean, something now you just have to know and respect those guys. Like, it's not just because they're young that I feel like age doesn't really define much anymore, right? There's some guys that are just as good at 16 as the 20-year-olds. So, yeah, I feel like just guys are getting better way younger now. I feel like you see some 13-year-olds on Instagram they look better than us in the queue. So I feel like you gotta learn to respect the guys for all they're good at. So no, that's good.
Well, as a defenseman, when you see these kids come in, when you see players come in and they've got all their reels of their offensive ability and showing off what they like to call the silky mitts, showing off them going bar down and showing off all their flash and pizzazz. How much do you look forward and relish the chance to shut them down?
I mean, obviously, that's something that's huge, right, for me, for my identity. It's a big part to make sure to be hard to play against and be a guy that no one wants to be in the ice with. But I was kind of in that position too. And a couple of years ago, I'd like to show the flashiness and the hands and all that. But when I came to the league, I figured out pretty quick that my role is going to change a little bit in the next 10 years of my career. So I had to figure that out relatively quick. And no, so now when I see that, obviously it's always a challenge to go against the guys like Carpino and Zon, like playing Armada. It's never an easy game, right? Those guys that are all flashy and can twist you inside out. But no, it's fun.
Let's go back to the start of the career then. Let's go back to the minor hockey in Miramichi. What are some of your first memories of hitting the ice and trying to find that flash and pizzazz in the game before you switch over to an offensive stalwart?
Yeah, I say it was kind of my whole career, really, to be honest. I mean, growing up, I was never really the top guy in any of my teams. I mean, obviously, I was a hard worker and I wanted to be one of the best, but I would say pretty early on, I was never really addressed as a top guy. I mean, I never made Team New Brunswick in any of the years, so that's a pretty essential thing when you're come through the Maritimes to be on that team and play Canada games, and all that stuff was kind of. It's nice to be noticed there, and I was never really kind of put on those lists or on the radars for any of that stuff. I mean, I missed the first year of the Q draft, and I got missed. So, yeah, I mean, obviously it sucks, but I feel like it's part of it, and I feel like it happens. So,
Can I ask you? Okay, so in that process, you see all your friends, you see people you play against, and you see their names on that list, and you're on the outside looking in. How much, I guess, does it give you a chip on your shoulder? Does it give you more momentum, or what goes through your mind in that situation?
I mean, being young, kind of in that moment, I could say, looking back at it and how I was feeling then, probably not the best thoughts, the best mentality. I mean, obviously you're 14 to 15 years old, and I mean 16 when you see your name's not on the draft list, and I mean, I thought I had a pretty good year, and I see some of my buddies get drafted, and I'm like, there's not much you can really do about it, right? But I mean, my dad kind of installed into me pretty early that that's not. It doesn't really matter if you win or succeed. You just got to keep the same work ethic either way. So I feel like that's something that's kind of helped me along the way, especially with not making any of the teams and all that stuff. But
Yeah. When you get the chance at that point, then you head off to Ontario to play Ontario Hockey Academy, and you
mhm.
make that decision to take that route. What's going through your mind, and what are you looking forward? What were you looking forward to the most in that challenge?
I think it was kind of just a fresh start, right? I feel like playing in the Maritimes, it's kind of you kind of get a name, right? Like people start to know who you are, and you have a name for yourself. And for me, it was kind of, I wouldn't say I wasn't doing anything bad, but I didn't have the reputation of a golden player. You know what I mean? And I feel like when I went to OHA and I just had a fresh start to just prove myself. And I actually went there as a forward, and and it was a little bit of a challenge, but I went there and I worked my tail off every shift, and I earned an assistant role halfway through the year there as a forward. So I was pretty accomplished there, like being able to do that, and as a different position, it was nice, and no, it was a great decision. I wouldn't regret a thing. So.
What you talk about kind of the transition there, and especially learning about your game there. What was the biggest lesson you took away from it?
Um, I'd say that you have to be willing to do anything for a team. Like I went in a pretty important years of development, like your 14, 15 years, and I went away to OHA and I was playing a new position. But I think at the end of the day, like when you're young in those years, I feel like development's huge, and wherever you go, you're gonna get develop the most, and you're gonna work out, and you're gonna kind of build that your foundation early. And I feel like that's where OHA did. It's not really your positioning and all that stuff. Then it's just kind of building your foundation, the love of the game, and I feel like it starts from that young age. And I feel like wherever that is, it doesn't matter if you play AAA or AA. When you're young like that, it's wherever you're going to go and develop the most. And then when it comes to 16, 17-year-old, and you're going to be just as good as anyone else. So.
So you come back to New Brunswick, you go to Champions Hockey Academy, and you've got 2 seasons there. Getting back into maritime hockey after that year, what type of edge did that bring for you?
Yeah, no, I was pumped to come back and play in Fredericton. I mean, I had quite a few friends there, and I mean, Owen Graham, I went to OHA with him, and Will Reynolds were from Fredericton too. So, some guys that are in Fredericton, and them to play against. Even our first year, we played against the high school teams in Fredericton. So, lots of people come to the games that we knew, and no, it was kind of a cool environment to do that. But no, it was pretty sad just to be back in the Maritimes. I mean, obviously missed a couple of years, and I went away. So no, it was nice to be able to kind of be back in the region. But I'm excited now that I'm kind of out of the Maritimes. To be honest, I like it if you're in Quebec. It's a great spot. So.
Sure. So before I'll get back to the Maritimes for a second, but you bring up being in Quebec and having an opportunity to exchange. What's some of the biggest things I guess you learned about yourself going to Quebec and your 2 years there? Quebec City again. I would assume a little bit more bilingual. Of course, there's probably more bilingualism in
Yeah.
Montreal, but you're still going to need to use a lot of French in Quebec City.
Yeah, no, it's been a challenge. I mean, obviously, coming to Quebec, there's a lot of French too. So, no, my mom she made sure that I'm working on my French, and I grew up kind of taking French classes. So being able to kind of do some interviews in French and work with some of the guys here in French, it's nice too. So definitely been learning that a little bit, and no, it's nice to kind of have that in your package as well. So.
So just we'll come back to the Rampart. We'll come back to this season. I want to talk about the experience with the Miramichi Timberwolves. And again, that's your first real junior experience. You got a couple games there, and you've got a couple games in the playoffs with them. What was it like to come back home to play on that club?
I mean, it meant everything, to be honest. I mean, growing up, I worked with their team, and so did my mom. So I was the assistant equipment manager there, and I just filled the waters and sticks and stuff when I was about 6 years old, or no, I'd say 6 or 8 years old, one of the two. And my mom, she was like the trainer there. So, and we always used to build guys like my whole like growing up during there, and I think that's kind of what established kind of the dream of hockey through those guys. So it was super nice to have that. And then when I got the experience, I mean, to go up and play with them, and lucky enough to win a championship there, it's definitely not something that everyone gets to go through. I mean, I don't think when I was building guys, they never even won. So they went to the finals a couple of times, and I got to kind of rub it in their face and say, hey boys, like, look, I went there for a half season, we bring it home. So it was nice to kind of have those bragging rights on them. But no, the experience was great. And like the Corey Baker and Billy, they were one of a kind guys, and I still reach out to them and talk to them now. And whenever I'm home, they let me come back and come on the ice with them. So it's a super special bond there with. I mean, Billy, he lives like close to one of my best friends, and we're always at his house in his outdoor rink. So it's a super special bond. And my house is only 2 minutes away from the rink, so I walked down to the rink and I would go to the practices when I was playing there. So it was crazy. It's something that not everyone gets to experience, but I was super fortunate for that.
To talk about growing up around a hockey team, who were some of
Yeah.
the guys from the Miramichi Timberwolves over those years that you looked up to the most?
I'd say growing up, I mean, we had a guy, Jake Cardiff. We used to build him at our house, Braden Urich and Josh Urich. And then we had a goalie, Bobby Dugan, and he played in St. John for a little bit a while ago. And I'd say those guys, I mean, now it's pretty crazy looking. They all have families and 3 kids, 2 kids. So it's definitely, it's weird, but no, those guys really established it in me early, like to love hockey through them. So no, it was super nice to be able to experience that with them. So.
Well, and you've got the established love for hockey, but I think did it give you kind of an inside track on what it takes to be a hockey player at the level and kind of the what you have to do to take care of your body and take care of your mental game to be able to excel in those type of leagues?
Yeah, no, I'd definitely say like they definitely shared some of their wisdom on me with when they played in the WHL, and a couple of them play in the Q. So they definitely shared quite a bit to me and let me know what it takes. I mean, obviously they were playing junior A, but I mean they were still they were all elite players. All the guys that stayed at my house were top of the league and top of their teams. So no, it was lucky to have those guys, and they all had experience in the WHL and in major juniors. So it was no, it was super nice.
Charlie, you were passed over on Team New Brunswick's. You were passed over your first year in the draft. What's going through your mind when you hear your name called for the Quebec Remparts when you're finally selected here?
I mean, big relief to be honest. I finally feel like something was working. It took so long, and now it is my first real moment. And I was like, wow, like people are starting to notice me, and it was like you could ask my parents. It was just it was crazy. Just I mean, I don't think it's not very often that a guy gets passed over his first year and then goes in the second round or second year, right? It's not very common that happens, but. No, I was just super grateful. I mean, my agent's a big part of that. I feel like ever since I got him that year at Christmas, I feel like things just started to take off from there, and no, I could give a lot of praise to him for that. I mean, I feel like I did put in the work, but I feel like in the end, like he did really help a lot with that Q process, and I was just super lucky. It was perfect timing, and I feel like sometimes that's what it is in hockey. It's the right place, right time, and sometimes my grandfather always says if you're good, they'll find you. But I feel like a lot of the time it is you got to be lucky too. So, I feel like that was a big part, and that helped a lot. So.
Well, now it's your name's on a lot of lists. You go on
Mm.
the elite prospect, and every NHL scouting list has got your name written up there and pretty high. Do you keep tabs on that, or is it just something it's just old hat and you just keep focused on the game?
No, I mean, it's definitely when you think about it, and I mean, my dad's a big guy like that. He's always checking checking the stuff like that, and I mean, because obviously being from Miramichi, and like I said, my past, so it's pretty special to be just in tender for all that stuff, right? Like if you would ask me 2 years ago, what do you think of the NHL draft? I'd been like, if I get drafted, I'm happy with that, right? Like it's a crazy accomplishment for anyone to get drafted, even to go to an NHL camp. It's a great accomplishment. So to see my name on some of those lists, especially that high, it's just crazy. But I feel like I've worked for it, and I feel like I do deserve it. I don't try to sound cocky with it, but I do feel like I've worked my tail off to get to this point in my career, and I feel like that. I mean, obviously, I feel like anyone that in my position right now would be say the same thing. They're super fortunate because it's a one of a kind thing. No one gets to experience this, so I'm super grateful. But I'm really excited for what's coming. So.
Was there a moment, was there a list that was the first time that caught you off guard, like, oh my God, I'm on this radar, and do you remember that moment?
Yeah, I think my parents came down. It was towards the start of the year, and I think I don't know. My dad was scrolling on Facebook, and he seen a list, and he was just like scrolling through it, and he seen my name, and I was like 25 or 26, and he was like, "Holy shit!" Like he's like, "You see this?" And I was like, "No, like what is that?" And I was ear to ear. I couldn't even stop smiling the whole dinner, and I was so fired up just because like to finally see like, I mean, the Q is one thing, and that's a great accomplishment, but to see that like an NHL like it's crazy. Like to just think about it, because I know, like when I was at Champions, and I would always joke with the boys. I was like, "Boys, I'm a late birthday. Like I'm gonna get drafted. Like watch, you're gonna see like." And they're all like, "Oh yeah, like what? And we're gonna see that. It's gonna be sick." Like they were all just joking because like no one thought it could actually like come true and it'd be real. But to actually be in the position like now, it's like it's crazy. So.
How much more special was it to have that moment with your parents than, just going through a Facebook stream alone or with your teammates?
I mean, it's special, right? Like with my parents, they've been the biggest supporters kind of growing up. And I mean, there's been a lot of times where I've been at a point where I just didn't think I could get through it again, right? I mean, playing the Q my first year, and there was a point I think towards Christmas where things just weren't working for me, and it was a really tough time. Like it's like I said, it's not an easy league to play in, and if you're not playing well, like you're up here. I mean, I'm in Quebec, so it's like I'm here. I'm the only thing I'm here for is to play hockey. So when things in hockey aren't working, it does get tough mentally, but I mean, they've always been behind me and made sure that I gotta love the game. And my mom's always told me like if I don't love it, then I can come home whenever, and she supports my decision 100%. But she definitely she's back there for me in my corner, and she's rooting for me on everything. So it's very lucky to have them in my corner and always help me with anything I need. So it's super great to have them.
What was the change in that season for you where you felt things weren't working and then all of a sudden you're having success?
Yeah, to be honest, it's I wouldn't say it's the highlight of my season, but I got scratched one game last year, and I feel like that was kind of where the point where I had a little reset button, and I was like, all right, let's go here, and I think it was the best decision that the GM and our coaches they made, and I sat a game in Chicoutimi, and I came back and I was playing super well, and then towards playoffs I was just flying, and I felt everything was working, so. Um, yeah, I mean, in the moment, looking in the moment, I was obviously upset, like being scratched. It's never a good feeling, right? But I feel like when I look back at it now from a different perspective and I see like what their thinking was and how it would have helped me, and I look and I see like, wow, like it really did. It changed a lot. I took that step back, reset, and came back out of practice week just being positive, being happy, and it really did change my momentum for the rest of the season. So that helped me quite a bit.
From healthy scratch to the CHL USA prospect game. Tell me about that
Yeah.
experience.
No, I mean that was yeah. There's been quite a bit this year. Eh? Like it's been there's a it seems like it's never ending with the stuff, the games, the visits to Montreal, right? It's been packed year already, and no, I'm super fortunate for it also. I mean, being able to go there and play with some of the top guys throughout the whole CHL, it's something to dream of. I remember watching the game last year, and I was like, boys, like that's crazy, like how fast it was, and to be actually to play in it and just to meet some of the guys, like it's super cool to see some of the guys that are all ranked like in the top 5, top 3, right? And they go there and they're all super nice, genuine guys, right? Like that's what the biggest thing for me. I found it was unreal that you see guys that go there and they have the opportunity. They can be cocky if they wanted. They're the ranked top 5 and top 10, so they're just unreal guys in hockey, right? But they're even better people, and I feel like that's what means so much more. And it really shows that the hockey world it's pretty crazy, and especially when there's guys that are ranked that high and they're super genuine and they're nice people. I feel like it's the best feeling ever to be there and go there, and it's like it was like a family. Really, everyone was super kind with each other, and no, it was a great experience.
So was on that ice in those practices was who were some of the guys that I guess that stood out for you when you're on that ice? You're at that level, but you're still looking at guys doing things that you wouldn't see in the queue, but you see at that rarefied air.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean everyone I think was ranked in the first round, so definitely a lot of stuff that I seen, and I was like, I wouldn't even imagine doing any of this stuff. But no, there's some guys. I mean, Belchez is obviously you see him. That's the kind of one of a kind talent, right? Too like I mean, I could go on about the whole team. Really, everyone's a generational talent to me. What it looks like. I mean, they're all guys that are ranked in the first round, so that's exceptional for me. I don't care what anyone else says. That's pretty crazy. And but the biggest thing for me, like I like my ultra, like he was a guy that there and he was a super like very kind guy and like great leader, but he was also like a standout player, and it was crazy to see him play. Like he played really well, and he also was one of the nicest guys I've ever met. So those guys is what kind of stood out to me the most, and he was a super nice guy.
The experience of going to the Bell Center, representing the Q with the prospects and having a chance to really see in behind the scenes of an NHL game. And look, we'll talk. We'll play in the Videotron Center for in a second. But having that chance with the media tour, with the league at the Habs, in again, you're part of the being at the Mecca and the Cathedral of Hockey in Quebec. What was that like as an invitee?
No, I mean, like another one where it's just you got to be super grateful to go to that stuff, right? Like, I mean, for me, it's just like every time I tell my parents, like I remember telling my mom, I was like, hey, I'm going to Montreal to watch a game, and she was like, holy shit, like she'd never even been to a game before. So I told her I had tickets and she could come, and she was even more fired up than I was. So, uh, no, it was super crazy. I mean, to be able to have some interviews with some of the guys there and be on some of the radio things, it was all pretty cool. And then to go behind the scenes and to be up top and in the rafters, and you're like looking down over the game like a bird's eye view. It's like super crazy. And no, like being able to do just listen, talk to Marty St. Louis a little bit. Like I remember like just some of the things he says, like he's just a wise guy. Like he is, every time he says something, you just got to, your ears got to be peeled, and you got to take everything in, especially from a guy like that. And uh, it was it was not. There's really words can't describe how any of that stuff is that the league puts on for us like that. It's an event that the Q put on, like, and I know last year I seen it like quite a bit on the media too with the guys that went, and I was just like, it's pretty crazy to watch the practice and to see some of the guys. Like I just remember watching Caulfield do his little stick handles and crossovers and stuff, and I was like, man, like I don't know if I could ever do this. Like it's crazy, like how they move, and it really shows you the next level and what it takes. So no, it was a great experience, kind of another eye opener for me, just to really see in like another level and the next step what it takes, and no, it was great.
Okay, we're going to talk Eastlink one more time. And I want to talk now about, we talked about cell phones that last one. Let's talk about the perfect pairing. And I'm actually going to talk about uh, the internet, gig internet, and TV. We've got that pricing for you. It starts at 120 a month. Um, I just want to talk about the internet for a second here, because you know everything about the TV. You know, with this perfect pair, we're gonna get you connected with Eastlink Community TV, so you can watch the Q games, and you can watch us cover everything around the Mooseheads, the Islanders, and the Eagles. Um, well, listen, I wish we covered all 18 teams. That would require us traveling to Quebec, and I don't think that really supports the Eastlink community local aspect of Nova Scotia and PEI. I'd love to go up to New Brunswick, do a little St. John Sea Dogs. So they got wrestling night coming up. Hey, fingers crossed I can make it up for that. And of course, the Moncton Wildcats. But let's just go back to the internet for a second here. I'm off on a tangent there. The internet that's blazing fast with Eastlink. I play a little bit of Xbox. I find my experience playing Xbox on Eastlink Internet is so much faster that I actually will play using Xbox Game Pass Premium and do the cloud gaming off my computer hooked up to my TV for a better experience. I go on the road, I go places, and it's not as fast, and I can't do that. But with the Eastlink internet that I have here, it's so fast, it just makes the experience. I'll actually have a better experience playing it through cloud gaming than I will on the Xbox console, and that I think a big part of it has to do with the Eastlink internet. So make sure you take a look into that. Eastlink, the perfect pair. It's Eastlink Internet and TV. There's also a perfect pair of the Eastlink Internet and cell phone. And there's the terrific trio, which is all three. But you can call up 1-888-345-1111, visit eastlink.ca, or hop into the stores and they will hook you up. Once again, Eastlink, a proudly Atlantic Canadian company. For some of those guys, they're going from playing in front of in buildings of 3 to 4,000 a night. You you're the Rampart play in a building that is not built for the Rampart. It's built for a potential Quebec NHL team. But how has that helped you, I guess, prepare for that next level to be a day in, day out in a building of that seats 18,000?
Yeah, no, I mean, being here and it's definitely a privilege for sure. I mean, it's crazy to see 10,000 here, 12,000 here. For me though, like to be completely honest, when I was growing up, like obviously I played at prep school, so I never really had fans on my games, but um, the fans really never bothered me. The pressure kind of, it was something that never really bothered me. I'm kind of a player that when there's pressure, it's just like another thing for me. So I'm very fortunate to have that in my pocket, because I mean, being in Quebec, you could definitely have the jitters. And I mean, I just remember my first game. I think it was there the first 5 shifts. I couldn't even stand out there because it was like it was crazy. The fans in Quebec and in Montreal, they're so passionate with everything. So no, we're very lucky to have that, and it could help you, or it could kind of break you a little bit too. But I feel like once you get used to it in Quebec, it's nice, because then when you go to the next level, you really kind of, it's already in your pocket and you're kind of used to it. So no, definitely, it's a privilege to be here.
What are some of the things that you are working on right now to prepare yourself the next level? Things in your game that you really want to fine tune so that come playoffs and come draft time, those they're they're solid.
Yeah, I definitely say just continue to play good defensively. I feel like that's a big thing, and to know your identity, know your role. It's a huge thing, right? So not trying to be. I feel like like I said earlier, the sooner you find what that is, if you're an offensive guy, be offensive. If you're defensive, be defensive. But know your identity, know what you're good at, and that's what's going to benefit your team, right? So if you're a PK guy, go out there and block shots. Like find what you're good at, And I feel like for me, I know what my strengths are, my hitting and my defensive game, and being able to find passes and make plays too. So I know I just got to tighten up my D zone and make sure to continue to be a hard player to play against. Just be someone that guys hate to be out. If they're going in the corner with me, give them 8 cross checks and know like it's not going to be an easy battle when you come in the corner with me. And I think just if I keep tightening that up, and I feel like in playoffs, like that's a huge thing, right? Just when you play against top lines and top guys, to make sure to wear them down. And over time, like they might think again, if they want to go in the corner with you, they're gonna have to take a wear and tear, right? So I feel like that's one thing for me that if I continue to do that over time, I feel like good things can happen from that.
And again, it has been a whirlwind year for you. What's some of the things that you like to do outside of the rink, away from hockey, kind of a mental reset?
Yeah, I feel like a little bit of a weird one, but now being in Quebec, there's a lot going on here. So I feel like one that I've been doing, I've been getting massages recently. So that's a good one. I've been just kind of time to just relax, go there and get a little massage, and they put on like the yoga music, and you're just kind of in complete relax mode. And I feel like it's something I feel like a lot of the guys, I've been trying to tell them to start doing them here, because it's super nice, and it's just something where you can just completely relax your mind. But another one, I mean, being in Quebec City, right, to be able to go out and to eat a nice dinner in old Quebec and just to see everything. We did quite a bit last year, and this year we haven't as much, but no, being able to go downtown here, have a nice dinner, and just kind of walk around. There's a limited amount of stuff you can do in Quebec City, so it's super sweet.
Well, what's your favorite part of Old Quebec? Because I was there 2 years ago, and I finally figured out what a rampart was. It's the thing on
Yeah,
the castle. I had no idea until I went to Quebec City.
yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, I would say just the entirety of like the old Quebec, and then you walk down there, it's kind of like its own little village, right? Like there's like restaurants everywhere, and there's the people there. There's always tourists coming to visit, so it's always packed down there, and I just love the people. And no, it's a one of a kind environment, and it's super. It's unreal. I love everything about it.
What's your poutine order then?
I would just go. I'm just a plain poutine guy. I feel like
Okay.
that's just something. Yeah, I feel like when I was in Miramichi, I'd go to the rink and get a big poutine with some ketchup on it. And I'd feel like now living in Quebec, I kind of they cultured me a little bit to take the ketchup away from some of my things. But so now I kind of the ketchup has been taken out of my thing for a little bit. So now I'm just got to stick to some of the traditions they do here. So
Oh, I'm very glad the Quebecois have stopped you from ruining poutines, because I can't imagine putting ketchup on one of those things now. Hey, there was a, we've talked a lot about your family here, and we've talked about how your mom has been with the Timberwolves. We talked about your dad is always scrolling. How important has family been in this journey for you?
I mean, it's been everything. I mean, especially I've been home away from home for the last probably 5 years of my life, right? So now more than ever, every time I get the chance to go home or for them to come here, it means everything. And I feel like even in the summers, like I've been staying in Quebec and I've been training every time in the summer. So I'm home for a couple weeks, and then I come back up and I'm training here. So now when I'm home, I really just I value the time I'm home and be able to go. We have a cottage too now, so super fortunate there, and you can go relax there with our dog and just have a barbecue and just do whatever there, just relax and quality time with my sister too. Like she's a big part of this all. Like I mean, being able to just have a super close bond with my whole family like that, it's not everyone has that, and I feel like I'm super lucky to have them all in my corner. And um, yeah, I mean, my mom and dad, they've made quite a few trips up here, and my sister actually, she was able to come with my parents to Alberta whenever we went to Calgary there. So she loved that. I mean, I don't know if she loved the hockey as much, but she got to explore a little bit and kind of so she's lucky that she gets to explore through my hockey a little bit too. So no, it's great to have them. So.
Charlie, to go from relaxing in the off season to working in the off season, who are you on the ice with in the summer, and what have you been doing to keep yourself sharp during the off season?
Yeah, my first summer here in Quebec 2 years ago was a little bit different. I was with like a bunch of different groups and stuff, but this summer I was with a good group here at U Laval. There's quite a few guys throughout the queue mostly, and obviously some pro guys. But no, there's a great group that I work with, and the biggest thing, I mean, the thing that I love the most about it is everyone has the same mindset. And everyone wants to get better, and I feel like that's a big thing. When if I wanted to stay kind of back home, it's a little bit tougher to find the group that's all the same, like-minded, and they all want to be determined to get better. So coming to Quebec and finding guys that are all in the queue and they all have the similar goals, it's super nice to have that, and everyone's pushing each other. Even when you're about to throw up from doing cardio, everyone's pushing even more. So no, it's a great group here in Quebec, and I'm super lucky to have them too, because the off season is just as important as the season, and no, it's great.
Charlie, I appreciate taking some time. This has been a really great conversation with you. Anything you want to add before we wrap things up?
No, I just say thank you for having me. I feel like I always watch some of these podcasts, so it's nice to actually to get on it. But no, it's a privilege. So I want to say thank you for taking the time to have me out too as well. So
Absolutely. And again, and our friends Jenna and Sean, who are going to be watching this, Charlie's good friends with a guy that I grew up 2 doors down from and played football with. Sean, been to the wedding. Dave Andrews, the former president of the American Hockey League, was the MC at their wedding. Just a bit of trivia for Jenna and Sean. Good times as well. Awesome. Thanks, Charlie.
yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks again to Charlie Morrison for joining me here on the Around the Maritime podcast. Great conversation with that young man, and a prime example for young hockey players that sometimes your name is not on the early lists. But if you keep working, you keep persevering, and you keep being honest about your game and working on that game, finding what you need to do with that game, identifying your game, and still love your game, good things can happen. And Charlie Morrison and the Rempart, we're going to be keeping an eye on them in that middle of the run in the Eastern Conference. But we'll be cheering for him as the draft process moves on. And thanks again to Jamie Tozer for taking some time to join us here on the podcast. Always great to check in with our friend over in St. John and talk about Sea Dogs, but get his perspective on the races here in the queue. And I do want to end off here on the podcast by giving a shout out to a feeder system to the queue. A lot of players for the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League come out of Stansted College. I don't think we are going to see any talent from this game show up in the Q ranks at the moment, but it was the 4th annual Team Asia versus Team Mexico game that went on at Stansted College this week. And I think it's just so important to give those from away, those that have come here as international students, the opportunity to take to the ice and play in a big game. Team Asia has won the last 3 meetings of this event. But Team Mexico, they were practicing. They were out. They were working hard. Logan Foote was one of the coaches of Team Asia, an Eagles draft pick. And Team Asia in the red. Team Mexico in the white. What a slap shot there. I think that's a goal. It was. What a goal there by 17. Down the line, he skates around. The one thing I noticed in this highlight pack is, well, they look like me on ice for one. Team Mexico is really throwing the body, and they are taking names. What a kick save there from the goalie from Team Mexico. Team Asia is letting me down here. There we go. We got a goal from Team Asia. I'm sure the Q Scouts were in attendance to check this out. I will give credit. We've not had a player from Mexico in the queue yet, but Shinya Hara played a season with Verdun. He had 21 points, the most for a Japanese-born player. We had Yu Sato last year, 2019-2020. It's been that long. Was a member of the Rampart, had 10 points in 39 games. And Takuma Kawai, he was a member of the Drummondville Voltigeurs and the Gatineau Olympique. He won a Q title at Gatineau in 2008. Those are the 3 Japanese-born players. Jordan Spence as well. He was born in Osaka, I believe, and went on to live in Australia. But yeah, he did all right up in PEI. But right here, again, Stansted College, this is a big event for them. Good on them for allowing kids that would not have gotten the opportunity to have a chance to play a game of hockey, experience the full Canadian experience, and congratulations to Team Mexico on coming away with the win, their first win in 4 games over Team Asia. Oh, man. Letting down the Nihon Ice Bucks. Stansted College, good on you for being there to allow kids from around the world to get that Canadian experience. And that's one of the big reasons why we love the game. We're still waiting for the first player from born in Mexico to show up in the queue. Logan Delaney used to call games with me. He played for Hockey Canada in Mexico City. He'll explain that to you. It's a long story. And trust me, if there's anyone good with long stories, it's Logan Delaney. I might be good with long stories too. I can go long from time to time. And that is where we're going to wrap things up this week here on the Around the Maritimes podcast, the official English language podcast of the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League. And it is presented by Carlsberg.